Hello, and welcome to another episode of Protip Conversations. Chris and I are excited to welcome today's guest. If you follow cricket, you know that one of the most exciting scenes is when you see a tearaway quick bowling thunderbolts at a batsman. There's something thrilling about seeing a batsman jump around, having to make split-second decisions, and if they make the wrong one, either get ball whizzing past their head or unfortunately sometimes take hits on the body. Uh, as someone who's had to face our next guest in real life, I can tell you that your nerves are on edge when he's steaming in nonchalantly and delivering those rockets. Jeremy Gordon is a Canadian cricketer who debuted for Canada in 2012. Jeremy is a fast bowler who routinely clocks over 140 kilometers per hour, or 90 miles per hour for our American listeners, which is a rarity in Canadian circles. Jeremy has represented Guyana in the past prior to representing Canada. He's also the founder and head coach of the Gordon Pace Academy, where he's making an impact on the next generation of fast bowlers and cricketers. If you'd like to work with Jeremy, check out his profile on protip.app as well as his Instagram at the Gordon Pace Academy. We'll put all the links in the description. And as always, if you like this episode, please like and subscribe and share, as that will allow the channel to grow and allow us to keep bringing on more awesome guests. So without further ado, Jeremy, welcome to Protip Conversations.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, so let's get started with, tell us a bit about your history and how you got started in cricket.
Basically, my mom got me into cricket, so I was this young and energetic child, always breaking stuff, doing, getting myself into like just trouble around the house, and she wanted to find a way for me to utilize that extra energy. Where I grew up in Guyana, my manager, he basically had a system where it was not just cricket, it was discipline as well. So like every afternoon, kids will be passing by my house. They were like dressed very neatly, shirt tucked into their pants and stuff like that. And my mom at that time was raising like 7 children alone. So she figured it would be a good way for me to get a bit of discipline and also, get a way for me to utilize that excess energy. And to be honest, the rest was history. So I started playing. I had no like prior interest in the game, but I kind of learned on the spot. And I transitioned. I started playing when I was 12, and then the next year I basically 2 years after that, I represented Guyana under 15, and I think the rest was kind of history because I played under 15, then under 19, then senior for Guyana before moving to Canada.
So you made your debut for Guyana in 2007, is that correct?
Yes, senior, yes, for the first
for the
class,
senior
first
team.
class. Yes.
Nice. Then what made you, I guess, decide to move to Canada after that?
My dad lived here for a long time, so he sponsored myself and my sister to move here. It was a tough decision. I didn't want to come because I was playing obviously back home and I was doing pretty good.
Right.
But my family thought at the time it was the right choice, so
Cool.
I came. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about the differences in the cricket culture between Guyana and Canada? What are some of the differences that you've noticed? Playing competitively in Guyana versus in Canada.
The structure for sure, like the from administrative perspective, and then even like the grassroots level, and then like emphasis in like discipline and training, like physical fitness, and not just even physical fitness, like mental fitness and stuff like that. Like it's massive. Like so from again the age of like 14, 15, like it was ingrained in terms of like the work ethic, being disciplined, public speaking. So it was like a whole process. You had to go to like public speaking, discipline, even nutrition. And then when you're playing cricket, you only focus on cricket, as opposed to here, like in some cases, you're playing cricket and also you're doing administrative stuff, a full-time job and doing stuff on the side as well.
Yeah.
So back home, you're playing cricket 7 days a week. That's it, right? And you're training and stuff like that. Culture a little bit different here. And also like on the weekend, I think this is probably important. So on the weekend when you play, it wasn't like after the game we're having drinks. So like back home, that was not the case. Like that's the culture here. Like after the game, you have a couple of drinks with the boys, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But back home is like you finish playing, you socialize just a bit, but then you go back to training for the next game or next tournament, stuff like that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, were you? I guess you mentioned cricket. Were you active
Yeah.
in any other sports growing up?
Yes, yes, I was. Yeah. I was a sprinter. I
Okay.
think had I not playing cricket, I feel like I would have been competing with Usain Bolt. I was like the fastest sprinter in in my town, my village, my city.
Right.
But then I got into cricket and I kind of stopped sprinting. And also, I played soccer and I played basketball. I wasn't
Got it.
like as good as a soccer player and basketball player as I am cricketer, but I did dabble a bit.
Nice. Okay. And then who was your sporting hero growing up?
Um, Courtney two Courtney Walsh and Courtney Ambrose. I kind of like that pair was devastating for batsmen
Hmm.
around the world at that time, and I
Yeah.
looked up to them. And if people study or look at my bowling action,
Yeah.
it's a combination of both of them. So I couldn't decide
Right.
which one to emulate. So I just combined both of them into one. So
Yeah. Yeah. You have that open chested action as well.
yes,
The high
yeah,
arm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Quite scary to face.
Thanks.
um, yeah. So I guess, switching gears a bit, and
Mhm.
I think Chris will go into your philosophies on the coaching side. So
Okay.
we'll talk a bit
Yeah,
about
so
that.
I mean, we see that you've been a player for a long time and now you're coaching as well. I was kind of
Yes.
wondering what you think from both perspectives makes a really good coach.
Yeah. I think knowledge, a clear communicator,
Yeah.
being very patient. So patience is key. I mean, from a player
Yeah.
perspective,
Uh-huh.
coaches had to have been very patient with me because sometimes they'll communicate stuff to me, and then for me now to follow or take that instruction, sometimes I kind of like doing things my own way. So
Right.
now coaching, as an example, I coached a Toronto University cricket team apart from my academy. So I've played in like 4 tournaments so far. We won one out of three, and I have like clear plans and stuff like that. Like we have like team meetings, but then like watching the guys execute, like I'm actually nervous because sometimes like I'll be like, "This is the plan. Can you execute?" But then it's a difference. 'Cause I can have all the plans. I am not out there. Like I'm not
Yeah.
playing. It's for the player to now execute. So
Yeah.
it takes a lot of patience and trust. And I've learned to trust the process and not look for the end results. Because if you focus on the results, sometimes things get missed in along the way. So I think the best coaches, they focus more on the process as opposed
Yeah.
to the end result.
Have
Uh,
you gotten any? Yeah, sorry, Chris. I was just going to ask.
yeah.
Since you're still playing and now you're
Yeah.
coaching as well, have you gotten, I guess, any insights into now what your coaches might be thinking when they're
Oh,
working
a
with
thousand
you? Or
percent, a thousand
yeah,
percent. Like for instance, as an example, because right now I'm working with Pupudu, and I think he's probably one of the
right.
best coaches I've ever worked with. He's all about the process, and he likes to tell me like, Jeremy, keep it simple, keep it simple. But for me, I'm like, why keep it simple when I could create impact just being my authentic self? But then what
Yeah,
I've learned, like by keeping it simple, I can still be authentic and I can still create impact by keeping it simple, because now it's more of
yeah,
a patience game as opposed to like me obviously it's situational, right? So like for the most part you keep it simple, but there are going to be situations where you have to obviously go think outside the box. But if you keep it simple as possible, follow the process, you're more than likely to succeed, if that makes sense.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to add color for the listeners who might not know, Pubudu Dasanayake is a former Sri Lankan test player. He represented Canada after moving here and then has transitioned into Canadian coaching, then has coached the USA cricket team, Nepal cricket team, and he's back coaching the Canadian cricket team right now on their journey to try to reclaim ODI status. So, yeah, he's a Canadian and international cricket legend
Mhm.
who we're lucky to have here. Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
So, in addition to him, have you had other coaches who have been big influences on you?
um that I've worked with, or that I've like coached myself, if that makes sense, like as a player,
I guess I'm curious about your coaches, the coaches you've worked with in the past. Uh,
Gus Logie was also pretty good. So what Gus
yeah.
Logie did for me, and to this day I still use it, a visualization. So for me, I work in IT, and I'm also
Yeah.
an Aquarius, so I'm an overthinker just by general nature. So I'm always
Okay.
overthinking.
Yeah.
So what Gus was able to do for me is to help me to keep it simple, and also to visualize what I'm going to do. So like let's say like the my pre-game ritual is visualizing what I'm in looking to do in the matches, right? So for me, I think that's key as well. So like visualization and then intentional or grounding type meditation and stuff like that. So that was like kind of his philosophy. The
Yeah,
more relaxed you are, and if you're able to visualize and kind of see yourself doing well, from a mental perspective, is easier from a physical perspective.
that makes sense. Is that something you bring into yourself as a coach?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yes,
Yeah.
because for me to work wonders, and I didn't think it would have. So for me, I feel
Right.
like it's something I can obviously bring forward as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you have any sort of, I mean, you may have actually just spoken to that, but do you have any like really great piece of advice you've received from a coach that's kind of stuck with you?
Well, again, just keeping it simple, to be honest, because
Keeping it
like
simple.
again,
Yeah.
being an Aquarius, we tend to complicate things.
Okay. Yeah.
So just kind of keeping it simple, I think has paid dividend, like a lot of dividend for myself, as
Yeah.
opposed to again like looking to create things. Because in some scenarios, you don't need to do much, but like I have the personality someone that where I feel like I need to do more and more, like I end up overdoing. So again, keeping it
Gotcha.
simple to me is the best approach.
So kind of, I guess in that, so when you prepare for a game, how do you go about doing that and like keeping it
Yeah.
simple while getting ready to compete at a high level?
Yeah. So the visualization again is I mentioned, and then
Yeah.
meditations. I do lots of grounding meditation, even before, even during the game as well too.
Yeah.
I ground myself a lot. So I don't think people realize that, but like I ground myself a lot because I am a high energy person. Like I have a lot of energy. So and it could get a bit chaotic. So by grounding myself, it allows me to stay in the moment. So I can easily react to things as opposed to coming with my preconceived notions and
Yeah.
preconceived plans. It's kind of yeah.
So you're able to kind of notice in yourself when you're getting
Yes.
the high energy and just kind of like bring it back
Yes. To
down.
like bring it down.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good. And is your training like significantly different when you're preparing or playing, competing versus kind of the off season?
Is generally the same unless I'm injured. If I'm
Okay.
injured, then I modify it based on the
Yeah.
injury. But it's
Have,
generally the same, to be honest.
have you dealt with a bunch of injuries?
Oh yeah, tons
Yeah.
of injuries. My most recent injury, I pulled my peroneal nerve. Is this nerve that runs at the back of like the back of your knees, along like from basically from your lower back all the way down to
Yeah.
your ankle. So I kind of pulled that nerve. I was pretty much out for like a good year.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
I had trouble. I couldn't do this with my ankles. I couldn't, move up and down. I think it's a
Wow.
dorsiflexion. I couldn't do this,
Yeah.
right? So that was pretty rough because it wasn't a muscle. To me, muscle injuries are easier because you can
Yeah.
kind of like work them back into submission. But with the
Right.
nerve, you got to be patient. So like that taught me even more patience. Like I just got to be
Right.
patient with my body, trust the process, and yeah.
Yeah. And again, and for the non-cricket listeners, fast bowling is like the most injury-prone
Yes.
skill, I guess, if in cricket, just because again you're steaming in, and there's an amount of force that goes through your body when you're trying to deliver a ball at 140 kilometers an hour. I think they said something like it's like 10 or 15 times your body weight or something like that
Yes.
that goes through your
Yes.
front leg, the
Oh
braced
wow.
leg, right? So
Yes.
yeah, it can be quite demanding on your body.
Yes.
But I think as sports science has gotten better, they've gotten better at keeping fast bowlers on the field. In the
Yeah.
90s and 2000s, you would see every 6 months the guys would be on the surgeon's table with some
I
sort of
agree.
stress
I
factor or the
agree.
other. Yeah.
How do you find that balance then to like train to be really great fast bowler, but not train so much that you're like you're saying struggling
Yeah.
with the injuries?
Honestly, it really comes down to listening to your body. So I listen to my body. So if my body tells me I can go a bit more, I do. My
Yeah.
body's like stop. I was like I stop. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's probably something you developed over time with
Yeah.
Yes.
experience.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I was going to ask that. Yeah. Did that maturity come with like just having gone through the cycles, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
definitely has.
Because
Definitely
I
has. Yes.
remember seeing Jeremy in like early 2010s when he first
Yes.
came in the Toronto
Yes.
cricket circles, where it was entertainment. You just come in and watch him go. But
Yeah.
then, as I've seen him now, there's a lot more control in his
Yeah.
aggression. Back then it was balls flying, by my head, by everywhere. But then now it's like he knows exactly what he wants to do when he's out there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are healthy and you're competing, how do you know when you're kind of game ready, or what do you do to get kind of? Well, you
Um,
mentioned the meditating, but how do you know when your body's like ready to go?
well, for me, it depends on if I have a niggle to it. If I think as a cricketer, we all played niggles. So it depends on
Yeah,
how bad a niggle or injury is, right? If
yeah,
it's not something severe, I'm always ready. If that makes sense, like because I'm
yeah,
always training. I'm always like I train 4 or 5 times per week. So I'm always like game shape. But the
yeah.
niggle is what determine whether or not I'm ready. If that makes sense.
Is that
Mhm.
always
So
some little thing? There's always some little thing that's bothering you.
always some little thing. To be honest, I cannot remember ever not playing with some sort of
Yeah,
niggle. So,
yeah. That's kind of, I
and this
think,
is
the
like when I was like
reality.
14. Yeah,
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 of playing at a high level, right? Is yeah,
Yeah.
you're pushing your
yeah,
body to the limit. So there is that.
yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and then, so I guess more back on the sort of psychology side of it.
Mm,
When you're playing, do you have anything you do, or do you get like butterflies or anxiety? And do you have any ways you manage that?
yeah. I definitely have butterflies.
Yeah,
And it really comes back to like keeping it simple and staying in the moment. So yes,
yeah,
Goslogi told me about that, but then also Yuvraj Singh, I played with him 2019 at GD20. He also reinforced and reinstilled that approach. He basically says, remember why you start playing in the first place, and try to visualize yourself playing with your friends in your backyard,
yeah. Okay,
and just kind of so you kind of remember that feeling, and you forget about the cameras, you forget about like the competition, and then now also you're now trusting your skill. Like what do you do best? You
right.
focus on that and just do that. So you take away the name, take away the camera, take away, let's say, everything, the crowd even,
Yeah,
and focus on just the wicket, so the wicket mean the wicket and the batsman,
yeah.
not the person's name or stats, or is more
Hmm.
about like whoever's in front of me. And I think
Yeah,
that helps me a lot.
that's kind of smart. Yeah, you break it down to you're just playing cricket, right?
Yes, yes.
I think that might be easier as a fast bowler because I don't know when I'm facing 140 kilometers per hour, I'm thinking more than just about the wickets and you know
Yeah.
playing the ball straight. It's
Yeah.
more. It's like all right, let's not get injured here.
Well, fair enough, fair enough.
Do you have an experience that you can share with us where you had just kind of like a really bad or tough sports
Yeah.
performance, and maybe what you learned from that?
This again, GT20. So my first year playing GT20, this is like a professional tournament in Canada. It hasn't
Yeah.
happened in the last couple of years, but it started in 2018. So my first match was against Steve Smith, and he's like one of the world's best batsmen. So my only over in the match, it went for about, actually no, my first over went for about 20, and he kind of dictated so I was bowling to him, and I was like more focusing on his caliber and his stats and whatnot. So I was bowling into his zones, his hitting zones, and he kept hitting me off. So
Right.
to me, I didn't back my best ball. So my best ball is my Yorkers. So my Yorkers, I can close my eyes and bowl my Yorkers, but I didn't bowl not even one. So what I learned, and again, fast forward to the next year when I was having a conversation with Yuvraj Singh, he's like, no, like in any scenario, you back your best ball.
Okay.
In a state like that, you back your best, you back your skill, as
Yeah.
opposed to the person's name. So you just back your skill.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And what do you think is the toughest part about being a competitive cricket player?
Just being able to perform at a high level for a long period and keep that intensity over a long time. I think that is the hardest part, because sometimes it's easy for you to let's say break into a team, but for you to
Yeah.
maintain, or even just to like longevity of it, right? To maintain that, I think is the hardest part. That's
Yeah.
where fitness, diet, and discipline comes in, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's like
Yeah.
physical, it's mental, like you're saying,
Yes.
it's diet.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
noticed on Instagram that you're a vegan athlete.
Yes.
Have you
Yes.
always been a vegan?
I'm not always. I transitioned 12. Sorry. Almost over a decade. So 2012
Oh,
is when I transitioned. Yeah.
yeah,
So it's,
yeah.
it's it's been quite a while now. Yeah.
Is that
And to
difficult to maintain when you're traveling for competitions and that kind of stuff?
honestly, the only time I've had a problem was recently in Malaysia.
Okay.
So I've subconsciously had meat. Not It was not
Yeah.
intentional. It was
Yeah.
also, so I should say unintentionally, not subconsciously. Unintentionally
Yeah.
had meat.
Right. You
So
can
there
always
were there
know.
were cases where and in cases there are cases where like I ordered, let's say, a vegan, let's say, mushroom soup, but
Yeah.
then the broth was
The
chicken broth.
broth. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So otherwise, like I don't have issues because like I can have like South Asian cuisine. Like I actually enjoy South Asian or Indian cuisine because
Yeah.
a lot of like vegetarian, vegan options.
Right.
Or I can like most restaurants now, like they cater to vegans, right? So
Vegan.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky because I've had that.
yeah,
I'm vegetarian myself, and I've had
mm,
that issue where you'll order like a curry, and then it's like,
mm,
oh, the broth is there's
yes,
fish sauce in the
yeah,
broth or something along those lines.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
in
yeah,
some parts of the world, they'll consider fish as
vegan,
vegetarian,
yeah,
which
yeah, yeah,
yeah, which it doesn't. Yeah, it's always confusing, but
mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
And then so there's a conception or like maybe a misconception that like a vegan diet maybe doesn't give you all the proteins you need.
yeah.
Like how do you like do you find that's the case or how do you kind of deal with that?
I don't find that as the case because I did like
Yeah.
tons and tons and tons of research. So
Yeah.
for me, it's like beans, mushrooms, the different nuts and legumes.
Yeah.
Also, I supplement with like protein supplements. Protein
Right.
supplement is actually pretty recent. Like I wasn't even using protein supplement up until last year, and I found more benefit. Like obviously, like plant-based vegan protein, and I
hmm
found a lot more benefit with that, especially when it comes to recovery.
Yeah.
So like during the game, like my regular diet works fine, but I think recovery perspective, I found that the vegan protein helps me with that. Like
Yeah.
after the game. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Because also I'm 36 now, so I kind of need the
Not in
help
the
with
20s
recovery.
anymore.
So that's true.
And you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you were saying that now, like as a Canadian cricketer, you also have like a job and a career.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you balance your sort of cricket life with your professional obligations?
Honestly, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm grateful. With Scotia, I work with Scotiabank. Shout
Yeah.
out Scotiabank. We're able to like. There's a good work-life balance that we have. So it's like you work and also you have a life as well. So you're not super consumed with with work and you don't have a life outside of work. So all my vacation goes into playing
cricket.
cricket, and then
It's a benefit of things going remote a bit more, right? Like it's
yes, it helps. Yes,
it must have been even tougher, earlier in the 2000,
yes,
2010s where
yes,
that
it
wasn't
was.
as available. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Um, I know. You and the Canadian team are preparing for the upcoming tour.
hmm
Where are you guys headed next?
Sri Lanka first,
Yeah,
for a pre tour, and then Namibia for the World Cup qualifiers.
got it. And how's the preparation going for that?
It's pretty good. So like we're at Yashi 2 days a week, so Mondays and Thursdays, and that's cricket's specific skill and whatnot. And then fitness perspective, Wednesdays and Sundays. So we're
Got
with
it.
I forgot the guy's name. Is an ex NFL football player. He's like our strength and conditioning trainer.
Okay.
So we spend quite a bit of time with him, and just to make sure we're strong enough and ready for the tournament. And I think we do have some mental sessions. I think that's going to be scheduled to have some mental training and stuff like that because it's a critical tour for us. We haven't had ODI for almost a decade, or almost a decade now, right? So I think everyone's focused and looking forward to um, getting us back there because I think that's where we need to be. I think we have the caliber players to succeed at that level. So
Got it. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, best
yeah,
of luck to you and the
yeah,
team for
thank you.
that for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll all be cheering on from here.
Yeah, thank you, man.
um,
Thank you.
I, we're coming into the last few questions before we jump into the rapid fire. But I
Okay.
wanted to ask you, what advice would you give someone who's hoping to make a career in cricket in North America?
Um, Prioritize winter training. So like when winter comes around, don't relax. Like I think when I first came to Canada, I remember I was probably like 120 pounds on my first. So before my first winter, after my
Hmm.
first winter, I think I jumped like 200 pounds. So
Oh wow,
come winter time, prioritize training, prioritize fitness, um, and just in terms of like yourself, keep working on your game, keep innovating, because like um, I've played with you, and like after a while you play with someone, you kind of know what they're doing. So you got to keep innovating, keep getting better,
right,
because the more you play or you play with the same set of guys, they'll learn
right,
what you're doing, and then you won't be as let's say you're effective this year, may not be effective come next year. So
yeah. How have you kept adding new things to your
Yeah,
game that
yeah.
way?
So for me,
What?
what played when I came? So like um, I would say like the Mitchell Johnson. I was an enforcer back home. All I did,
Right,
or Sean Tate as an example. All
right,
I did was bowl
right,
fast and like
right,
scare batsmen back home. But
right.
then when I moved to Canada, the conditions were not conducive. So
Right.
over the years, I learned to swing the ball, learned to
Hmm.
like get into batsman's head. Like for instance, I'll bowl an entire game without bowling a short ball. Everyone expect
Right,
a short ball from me. I can like bowl the entire game without a short ball, or I can come the
right,
next day and bowl seven short balls or six short
right.
balls. Right? So it's more about like assessing situation as quickly as possible and understanding my opponents as well too, and just adapting because like in Canada, the good thing about Canada, I think, you play in all conditions here depending on the time. So like in early up in the season, you got English conditions. When it gets
Right.
as it gets hotter, you're playing like Caribbean slash Indian or Asian
Yeah, it's a
conditions.
bit flatter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then as you transition more into the fall, you're playing again in the English conditions. So I
Right.
think that actually helped me a lot too, realizing like, okay, different condition, I need to actually adapt to different conditions and different surfaces.
Cool. And then, what would you say was like a tour that you went on that really changed your perspective on cricket around the world?
Sri Lanka.
Okay.
So, and it's not even like a cricket thing in general. So it's like a life thing. So like before going to Sri Lanka, I thought it was like a country, but it's an island. Like it's a beautiful island. So like when I went there, I saw the beaches. I was quite amazed. Some of the beaches are probably more beautiful than the beaches in the Caribbean. So
Hmm.
I was quite amazed by that, and then the culture. So yeah, like that legit changed my whole perspective on life, to be
Worldview.
honest. Um, and then from a cricketing perspective, I think playing in Dubai. So like for some reason, Dubai tends to bring the best out of me. I don't know how or why, but there's something about playing in Dubai, like playing in Abu Dhabi, especially Abu Dhabi
Hmm.
Stadium. I think I've had some of my better performances for Canada in Dubai. Well, sorry, in Abu Dhabi in UAE.
Yeah.
So it's something about, I guess, think the environment maybe, because it just kind of brings the best out of me. I don't know why, to be
Awesome.
honest. I haven't figured it out yet.
Awesome. And then, I guess, what is your pro tip for
Yeah,
aspiring cricketers?
yeah. Like I said before, like keep adding to your game, keep innovating, keep innovating. And with the way cricket's going, if you're a batsman, try to bowl. If you're a bowler, try to bat, and also try to field. Like just keep adding things, continues to your game. Like keep adding more tools to your toolkit. That's my advice.
Okay. Awesome. All right, we'll jump into the rapid fire now. No wrong answers.
Okay,
So yeah, we'll
okay.
get started. Favorite cricketer?
Right now, Jeffrey Archer.
Right. Okay. And all
Yeah.
time?
All time Brian Lara.
Nice. Um, well, I think maybe this one, I know the answer to. But if you had to give up batting or bowling,
Yeah.
which would you give up?
Batting.
um, okay, I have one more, which I'm going to kind of throw a curveball here. So you've played 4-day cricket as well
Mhm.
as T20 and 50
Yes.
overs, right?
Yes.
If you have to pick one format, which one would you want to bowl in all the time?
I mean, if we're going based on like right now or like in the past, right now I'll
Yeah,
pick T20
sure.
because I don't think I want to bowl 18 20 overs
Yeah,
per day. But when I was younger, I'm actually I am honest speaking, I'm actually my bowling is more suited for the longer format as
longer
opposed
format
to like the shorter format.
makes
But
sense.
yeah,
Yeah. Favorite pregame song?
oh, there's so many. Right now it's called the King's Affirmation.
Okay.
It's just like just
Favorite.
affirming who you are. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Favorite cricket equipment brand?
Um, Adidas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite drill or exercise?
Um, I call it the Spider-Man push-up. I invented it. It's like
Okay.
yeah,
Nice. And then the least favorite drill or exercise?
um, deadlifts or squatting. I don't like that.
You don't like
No,
those?
no.
Okay. And then maybe you already answered this, but your favorite location to tour or which you'd like to tour for cricket purposes?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi, Dubai. I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have in terms of questions, Jeremy. Thank you so much for your time. It was very insightful, and it's been awesome seeing you progress. And best of luck to Canada in on this journey to try to reclaim the ODI status. It'll be awesome if you guys get it done.
Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.